Welcome to a new episode of Tahu Talks. Today we have Sachiko Shimamoto, affectionately known as Sachi, join us. As a single mama of 3, Sachi has faced her fair share of challenges, particularly when navigating health systems. In this episode, she shares her inspiring journey of resilience and determination, including how she launched her small business, Connoisseurs. With a strong focus on community, Sachi is dedicated to creating connections and fostering support for others. Join us as we explore her story. Hi, Saj.
Hi, Po.
No mai haramai. Welcome to my podcast, Tahu Talks. Thank you so much for coming through today.
Thank you for having me.
We've been friends for a few years, and over the years, watching you as a single mama, a business owner, you're very inspirational. Like, just your resilience in general has really motivated and inspired me because you have been through it, girl. And I didn't, you've had your ups and downs, you've had your challenges, but you've also had some amazing winning moments in your life. So that's exactly the reason why I wanted you to come today and share your story in the hopes that you keep inspiring others and motivating others, especially wahine out there or single mama out there, or even people who want to start up their own businesses. So thank you for agreeing to come here today.
Oh, thank you.
You're welcome.
Thanks.
Let's start with who you are and where you're from.
Ko Sachiko Shimamoto ahau. Where am I from? That's like a interesting question. I feel like I belong here, but I'm from many places. I whakapapa to many different places throughout Te Waipounamu. My father is Japanese, my mother is Māori, my mother is Ngāi Tahu me Ngāti Kahununu. She was born in Bluff, and we've moved around a lot.
So earlier we were talking, I had no idea that you actually grew up in Bluff, or actually you lived in Japan as well.
Yeah.
Where were you born first?
I was born in Dunedin.
Okay.
My mum married my dad and we moved to Japan when I was a few days old. So I spent the first 5 years of my life in Japan. Japanese was my first language. I went to preschool over there. I started primary school over there, and then we moved back to New Zealand. We moved to a place called Brighton, just out of Dunedin. That's where my nan lives. And I went to Brighton Primary School, and I couldn't speak English. There are 2 times in my life where I've started school not being able to kōrero in the same language as everybody else. When I was 5, 6 being the first time, and then it happened again because I got sent back to Japan when I was 13.
True.
Yeah, and by then I had lost all of my reo hapani, and that's not an experience that most people have to go through even once, but I had to do it twice.
Yeah. What was it like growing up as a half Māori, half Japanese individual?
That's kind of changed for me over time. I didn't particularly look at my childhood as being one that I enjoyed. It was more one that I felt like I endured. Life was rough. When we moved from Dunedin, we moved to the Catlins. We lived in a place called Aranui, actually Quarry Hills, which is next to Aranui. It's a really small farming community. I'm not going to tell you how old I am, but this was many, many years ago. We were foreign. My brothers and I, we all have Japanese names, and so we were kind of not really embraced. We were the odd ones out. So going to kura when we moved to the Catlins was rough. I did have whānau down there, though. I had cousins and stuff, so that was cool. My mum moved by my cousins. But yeah, I feel like I kind of grew up feeling quite, different from everyone around me, particularly because I had a Japanese name. I looked really Japanese growing up. I guess my facial features have changed a wee bit because people are sometimes surprised now when I say that I'm half Japanese. But yeah, it was rough. Yeah.
And how has your Māori whakapapa and your hapani whakapapa shaped you as a person?
Yeah, I feel like, again, that's something that's kind of changed over time. It wasn't until my early to mid-20s that I actually began to embrace who I was. And it wasn't probably until my late 20s that I actually began to appreciate my whakapapa, and, you know, that appreciation turned into something that I've become really proud of and that I love about myself, my whānau, the diversity, the, you know, the things that make us who we are. I think that as I've gone on a bit of a healing journey and, you know, come to understand life, maturity kind of plays a part in that. It's changed for me. I wasn't brought up in Te Ao Māori. We moved around a lot, so we moved from the Catlins to Invercargill, then I moved from Invercargill to Bluff. I went to Bluff Primary School, and that was my first kind of exposure to Te Ao Māori because I was in the bilingual unit. I had the most beautiful kaiako, Whaia Huhana and Whaia Audra, and they were just, you know, I look back now and I just see their manaakitanga and their aroha through a different lens. That was my first, and I must have been about 11, 12 then. So my first taste of Te Ao Māori was, you know, in my early adolescence. And then it wasn't until I was much older and after I had my first baby that I began to explore Te Ao Māori and my own, you know, whakapapa, and try and figure out a little bit more about my identity. Yeah, I was much older when I started that journey.
And what are some of your memories of Bluff? Were you connected with Te Reo Aroha Marae?
I was. When I went to Bluff Primary School was actually the years where the marae was being done up.
True.
Yeah. So I remember going up to the marae. I got to help paint some of the tukutuku panels.
Cool.
I remember watching that marae transform into what it is today. Colourful, beautiful. Yeah. Like the creative energy in that space is just incredible.
Are there any similarities as well between Japanese culture and Māori culture?
There are a lot of similarities. You know, the reo is one, so I found that learning te reo Māori, I'm not fluent, but I could wrap my mouth around the reo a lot. I was already kind of from knowing how to speak Japanese, it helped me to be able to pronounce Māori words, and so there's similarities in the reo, there's similarities in tikanga and kawa, like a general respect for whānau, for the whenua, for, you know, practices and processes. There's like an honouring and a respect that lines up in Te Ao Māori and in, you know, Japanese culture, which again isn't something that I've come to fully understand or become aware of until I was an adult. Yeah.
Can you speak fluent Japanese?
No, I cannot. I can understand Japanese. My level of Japanese, so te reo hapani is kind of like there's a formal language and then there's like a, you know, like a casual slang kind of language. And so I learned how to speak conversational Japanese at home with my whānau. And I've been on a bit of a journey of learning te reo Māori, and it's really frustrating and fascinating that when I'm in, we do te ao tārangi classes at the café, and, you know, the ture of te ao tārangi is kawa e kōrero Pākehā. And so when we are in that space and I'm trying to think of the answer or trying to think of a way to ask a question, the Japanese phrase will come to my mind first every time. Yeah. And I'm like, oh, like I'm trying to, it's a journey. I'm going back to Japan in March next year for 3.5 weeks. And I hope that just by being in Japan and completely immersed in the language, you know, I don't think we can ever lose those things. I think it's just kind of locked away. And so I think that it's kind of dormant And I believe once I step foot back in Japan and once I'm immersed in that language, it'll resurface. It's like when I'm trying to learn te reo Māori, te reo hapani kind of comes up and it's like, me. Yeah, so I had a good conversation with Matua Kewhakewa about, just the other day actually, and I said to him when I'm sometimes trying to kōrero Māori, the Japanese words come out and I find myself speaking a mixture of Māori and Japanese together, and he was like, just do it, just let it, because that's you. And I'm like, how's anyone going to understand what I'm saying?
True, eh?
Yeah, so.
Trilingual.
Yes.
Main. Yeah, because my tamariki are trilingual as well.
Yeah.
Speak Māori, Italian and English. Yeah. And they'll do the same. They'll mix Italian with Māori or Māori with English. So it's interesting to hear you say that happens for you as well.
Yeah.
Okay, so you are a mama.
I am.
As well. How many tamariki do you have and what are their names?
I have 3 tamariki, Kanisha, Manaya and Manaki. Yeah. Yeah.
And you're a single mama?
I am.
Yeah. So what was it like being a single mama, and what are some of the challenges or some of your winning moments as a single mama?
Gosh, well, my eldest daughter is 20, so I've pretty much raised all 3 of my children on my own. Yeah. There's been periods, I had stints of a relationship, but things got to a point where it was not healthy, and so my decision to, just sort of carry on my own was what was best for me and my kids. So I don't know any other way to parent. Yeah. If I'm trying to think of winning moments, I guess overall, and I've had this conversation before about the pros and cons that I see. Yeah. The pros being that I kind of get to make all of the decisions. And it's funny, most of the pros are the cons at the same time. Yeah. And it's just similar with our strengths and weaknesses. Sometimes our greatest strengths are also our greatest weaknesses. Yeah. But I've found that it's easier in a sense because, I can make decisions, I can lead my home and my look after my whare at the same time. That's a real challenge. It's a real challenge being the only one responsible for and bearing the weight of every decision, being the one to be the sole provider and also the one that has to do both sides of enforcing the boundaries and doing all of that, the beginning to the end. It is consuming. I think that the wins for me are watching my children, when they achieve something, when they are simple things like when they find joy in something, I can take credit for that because I'm a solo mother. Exactly. Yeah, and that's often really, it's really beautiful. I guess it's affirming when you're like, yes, I'm doing something right. Yeah. Because sometimes we're just wandering and just doing the very best we can. And then at the end of it, in the quiet moments of the night, you question yourself, you question your decisions, all of the things, and you've only got yourself to rely on. And so when they do stuff, when they achieve something, when they stand on the stage at Rangaehi, when they, experience their first whatever, those are the winning moments. Yeah. Yeah.
And can we talk a bit about Kanisha, your eldest?
Yeah. So my girl is 20. She's going to be 21 soon.
I can't believe she's going to be 20.
I know. What the heck? I know. It blows my mind. There's something that going from 19 to 20, it's and even when I say I've got a 20-year-old, I just said it the other day, and honestly, the look of disbelief. When my darling was born, she suffered an avoidable injury at birth. We didn't receive the level of care that we should have, and as a result, she suffered a severe brain injury. She was asphyxiated for over 25 minutes, and she, we spent the first 3.5 weeks of her life in the neonatal unit. The words don't even do justice. Yeah, it was horrific. And again, assuming that this is just the process, the journey of life. You know, I don't feel like I fully wrapped my head around, or I don't even know if I actually have, but, you know, when we look back on periods of our life, the older you get, the more wisdom and knowledge and, you know, things that you acquire, you look at it differently. Yeah. And so I got pregnant with my darling when I was 16. I had her when I was 17, and she was severely injured. And at that point, I didn't fully understand what had happened or what life was going to look like for us. Yeah. I listened to the doctors. You know, they kind of give you the worst case scenario sort of picture. Yeah. And I remember we got flown to Christchurch so she could have MRI scans so they could look at how the parts of her brain that were damaged. And I remember them telling me that the part of her brain that was damaged was responsible for coordination, and that her brain was that badly damaged that it was unlikely she would be able to suck and swallow, because at that point it's like a newborn breastfeeding, you know, all of that. So they used that as the example. And so it was pretty bad. The outlook was pretty bad. And I guess you said earlier, you know, resilience. Yeah. I heard that, but I didn't really accept that. I took my baby home and I just done my very best. Yeah. Done my very best to look after her, to provide for her, to love her, and we made the most of our situation. Yeah. She did end up sucking and swallowing. Yeah. Months and months and months later, she successfully breastfed. It was kind of looking like she wouldn't have the coordination to crawl or to walk, or everything was unknown. Brain injury is quite scary in that you don't actually know what the end result is going to be. Our brains are so complex, and so, you know, we just kind of one foot in front of the other. I done everything that I could to support her, and when she's 20 now, yes, she can walk, she can talk, she can eat, you know, she can do all of the things, but it's been a really, you know, a defining part of my life. Yeah. Having children does change who we are. Yeah. It does define, you know, it's like when we give birth, we're reborn into a different version of ourselves. Mm-hmm. And that's definitely what happened for me with Kanisha. The journey over the last 20 years has very much influenced and shaped who I am.
How so?
I'm a fighter. Yeah. Yep. I have had to fight for my girl every step of the way. I fought ACC for 18 years. Damn. 18 years, hung in there, stuck in there. I knew that what happened to her, what happened to us was wrong. Yeah. We knocked on the door, we put in an ACC claim, rejected. I didn't accept it, tried again. Got lawyers, had review hearings, specialist reports from all over the world, not even just this country, but we had specialist reports from Australia, from, you know, all kinds of different health professionals. Right up until 2 years ago, her case was going, we were at the end of the line, and it was pretty much, I had to make a decision. ACC declined the review, you know, the application again, and it was at that point I had the right to go to court. Yeah. And so I was prepared to take it to court. I was prepared to take it all the way to court, and it was at that point that ACC accepted her claim. Yes, girl! Yep. So 18 years worth of hanging in there. Yeah. And they accepted right at the very, very last minute.
They must have been so draining for you.
Gosh, again, it's kind of like words can't even do justice to the whole experience. It's not stopped there. Her claim was accepted, yes, but I've had to continue to fight and advocate for her every step along the way from then till now. I still am right now.
Why do you think it's so hard for our whānau to get support, you know, for their children or for whoever in their whānau that need the support?
Yeah. So many layers to that. I think it's hard for anyone to get support. You know, when we have our babies, our first natural kind of instinct is to embrace them, to love them, to accept them, right? Yeah. And I think in the choosing to stand up and fight for them, there's like this internal conflict where it's almost like it's as if you're not accepting of the circumstances. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. So it's kind of this internal conflict for starters. Secondly, having to hold on to what you believe to be true is tiring. And when someone tells you that you're wrong, health professionals, doctors, organisations, lawyers, it's enough to make us sort of tap out and to give up, to accept our circumstances. And I think that it takes a certain amount of strength and a certain amount of courage, and faith for me is the thing that helped me to stick in there for so long. I look back now at what that journey produced in me. I learned so much about systems, processes, about rights, about, I learned how to stick up for myself. I learned how to push back. I learned how to keep going when you've got nothing. What I learned in that space has transferred over into almost every other area of my life.
Yes, girl.
Yeah.
Love that. What kind of girl was Kanisha?
She is hilarious. Yeah. She can read a room better than anyone. Just the other day we went to the supermarket and she was talking to me and she bumped into someone and immediately she turns around and she's, "I'm sorry, are you okay?" She grabs this lady's arm. She's kind and caring. She kind of embodies aroha. Yeah, and I'm just so grateful for her. I'm grateful for the gift that she is to the world. Our babies grow up and they leave home. My two younger ones are getting older now and I'm feeling the gap between us begin to grow, My son's 11 and he's like, I'm like, "Is a kiss," and he's like, starting to be too cool.
True.
But I'll never ever have an empty nest.
Yeah. So I want to start talking about your business that you started up, your cafe and catering company. I already know how this all started, but let's tell the whānau who are watching, how did you come up with Connoisseurs and how did it start up?
The journey began unintentionally. Yeah. The Connoisseurs started because my brother and I were trying to make a bit of extra pūtea. We were both, kind of living week to week and sort of struggling. We were arguing about legal ways to do that. And what ended up coming of that was that I challenged my brother to explore legitimate ways of earning pūtea. The challenge was, well, why don't we just make and sell some dumplings? And he kind of called my bluff and we sort of did it. Yeah. I created a pānui, chucked it up on socials, and overnight, the tautoko was insane. We sold out, we had to cap. We were like, oh my gosh, we don't even know if we can make this many dumplings. And so that was the very beginning. And we did. We made that many dumplings, did a sale again the next week. And the name Connoisseurs, I'd actually had that name. But when we started doing the dumplings, and I was like, oh, we need to give it a name, that just came straight to the surface because it sounded cool. It sounded catchy. So that's how Connoisseurs was born. Because we were putting ourselves out there, we were on socials and stuff. I think people just, like when you see something, you become relevant, I guess. And I got the call up to do some catering. I already had a bit of a reputation for being able to cook and able to cater.
Totally. I love your Kai.
Thanks.
As soon as I saw you post that first video of you and your brother making the dumplings, I was like, yes! She's selling her Kai now. Because honest, who taught you how to cook, by the way?
My whānau are all foodies. My mum, my dad, they love to cook and they are amazing. My nan has always loved on us with Kai. So I guess I grew up around food, around different kinds of food. But it's funny that I didn't actually realise that I had a reputation. I didn't actually realise that I had that reputation for being able to cook. Girl. So it was a surprise to me when people are like, when I got the first invitation to cater for an event, it was to fill in for something someone had another caterer had fallen through, and I got hey, we have a situation, we really need to find someone to cater this event. And I was like, oh, I don't know how to cater. I can cook. I can come cook for you. I'll look after you. You know, it didn't occur to me that I had a set of skills that were of a standard to be able to even to consider selling it. So I got into this mahi not by choice necessarily, but it was in response to a need. Someone needed some help, and I just had a heart to want to help. And then I was like, oh, I better do a good job. So then I just obsessed over it. I was, you know, writing up menus, shopping lists, shopping for the ingredients, looking for the best ingredients. I generally put my heart into everything that I do, and the catering and the opportunities that opened were no exception. And I think, you know, that was evident in what was the final result on the table. The feedback that I've always got was you can just see and taste and feel the love in the kai. And so, you know, one event led to another event, and word of mouth kind of spread, and people kept asking if I would cater their events, and it just sort of grew. It just sort of took off. And my response was just always a yes, okay, I'll try. Yeah, so that's how it started. And I just kept, again, putting one foot in front of the other, trying to figure it out, trying to find solutions, and we sort of carved our own path in Ōtautahi in the hospitality industry.
And so how you went from, did you go from selling dumplings at your home to the catering jobs to buying the actual Kai Connoisseurs whare? What was that journey like?
Yeah, well, it kind of went like that. So I did the catering from home. I got my home registered with the council. And then COVID hit, actually. So COVID happened, and at that point, it had become the business, the catering mahi and selling dumplings had become my only income. So when COVID hit, it put me in a really tough position because all of the catering events got cancelled and things sort of happened. And so what I'd done in response to that was I started doing like click and collect meals for whānau. Like just for sales for people, I'd just pop it up on our socials, selling packs of food, bowl buns and dumplings, and, you know, just coming up with stuff and doing a sale, and then people would respond and place their orders and pick up their kai, and that's kind of how we survived. It got too much doing that at home, and also really awkward when I'd have like randoms off Facebook coming to my house to pick up their food. Yeah, and I realised, this is probably not safe or wise. Yeah. So I moved the whole operation to my rugby league rooms, Woolston.
Oh my God, yes. Now I remember, because for, I think it was a Father's Day.
Yes.
You had a Father's Day special there, and I came, that's right. Yeah. Totally forgot about that.
Yeah, we did randoms, Mother's Day, Father's Day, Valentine's Day. Yeah. We did special sales and came up with cool kai packs. But we moved our whole operation to the Woolston Rugby League club rooms. I have been a member of the Rams whānau since I was like 18. So it was really beautiful, and I was really, really blessed to get to, take over the kitchen there for a wee bit. We moved in there, we got a gazebo and put it up beside, we got a sign, and we just started selling kai from the club rooms out the back door. It was cool. It was really cool. But we quickly outgrew that space. It just got hard to do the volume of mahi that we were doing. There wasn't enough refrigeration. Just all these challenges popped up, and we just, at that point, I started thinking, okay, there's something here. If the catering isn't on, then at least I can rely on selling food as an income. So I decided to look for a shop. I decided to look for a space, whatever that would look like. And it was then that I started to look around for leases around Christchurch. And then a friend of mine, Rachel from Actus, I think she had heard that I was looking, and she said to me, you should try and get the cafe on Hampshire Street. And I just straight away, I was like, oh my gosh, yes, I would love that. Oh my gosh, I want to be in Aranui. That would be amazing. And it was just perfect. And so I pursued that. I talk to the landlords. Initially, they said no to me.
True.
The Crossroads are our landlords. Their heart was for community. And so when they first looked at, when I first messaged them, it was, we want to have a community kaupapa in here. And I said, just talk, we'll just meet. So we met face to face and I explained to them, I told them my heart, and then they were happy to have us take over the lease. Yeah. At that point as well, we were successful in our application for wave funding. So that really helped us get everything sort of going. And, we were really blessed with lots of support from different people we were connected with. Ariki Creative done all of our branding and logos and designs. Who else? We had Mokowhiti, Trudy and Lani and Vicky and the sisters. They just fully, we did an incubator program with them and they just wrapped us up in lots of love and support. And so we went from strength to strength, and it's been 3 years now since we've been in the cafe. Yeah. 5 years since the business started. Wow. And we have built a strong presence in Ōtautahi. We have a reputation. We're here. Yeah.
Has your cultural heritage influenced the kai that you make?
Absolutely.
And sell at Kai Connoisseurs?
Yeah, absolutely. I think when I look at the business, because it's kind of really grown organically, and it's grown, it's kind of like an extension of who I am. I didn't intentionally do that, but when I'm trying to come up with, ideas or different food products or, different things, it comes from inside my ngāko. So it's just sort of spread into what the business looks like and what it feels like. We just launched a line of frozen dumplings earlier this year. So we've done full circle, started off with dumplings and then now come full circle around where we actually have a registered proper, we actually are registered to sell a frozen food product, which has been a big journey. And we have a boil-up dumpling.
Yes!
And so if that's kind of like fusion, right? So we have a boil-up dumpling. Pretty sure it's the only boil-up dumpling in the world.
Yeah. I haven't seen or heard anyone else selling boil-up dumplings. And as soon as I saw you post out that you were doing those, I was like, oh my God, I need to come and try. Yeah. And they're absolutely amazing. Can you tell us a bit more about all the other kai that have maybe been inspired by your whakapapa, both Japanese and Māori?
Yeah, we have our cafe menu is kind of like developed over the years. We started off real complicated with all these things, and then we kind of have reined it in a little bit based on what our customers and, based on feedback from our community. We do fry bread every day. We do. And that wasn't something I thought would take off. Initially, it was fry bread on Fridays.
Girl, everyone loves fry bread.
I know.
Every day. Like, there's nowhere else that they can get fry bread every day.
Yeah. So we have a fry bread menu, fry bread burgers. We do a seafood chowder, and we've still got our dumplings, bowl buns, and staples, like breakfast things that people love. We have our catering menus are all developed from what customers want. Everything is actually growing based on what people want and ask for. And then we've kind of worked with it, done mahi to develop it into an actual menu or an offering. I was really blessed earlier in the year to participate in an event called Avenue Eats. And the dish that I came up with for that event was probably the most creatively expressive in terms of who I am and my whakapapa on a plate. Yeah. I made a creamy pawa gyoza, and I topped it with a crispy rice wafer, tea, and kawa jelly.
Oh, yum!
Yeah, it was such an incredible experience, just pulling that out, I remember when I got the invitation and just the whole thing from start to finish, and when I was in that space of developing the dish, it was really like a dig deep, like, what do I want to create? And that was what kind of came to the surface. And I wrote a story about the experience and about what that dish represented for me. Yeah. And that was my whakapapa on a plate.
Beautiful. I love that.
It was so cool.
Yeah, whakapapa on a plate. Love that. My sister wants to do something similar as well.
Oh, man, I've had some incredible conversations with your sister about ideas and events, and there's one that we wanted to do, and I still would love to do that with her, and it was a matariki event.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, and we talked about each dish being, a different dish that represents a different part of the kōrero. And it's just, like we were talking about earlier, all these ideas and the timing and the capacity to actually pull it off.
So how have you engaged with the community of Aranui through your cafe? Are there any specific initiatives that you've started up or have done in the past?
Yeah. We've done a whole bunch of stuff since we've been in there. When the Pākehē started to grow, I got to a point where I had to decide whether I was going to be all in and give it everything. One of the things that helped me to make that decision was the potential that the Pākehē had to positively impact the lives of others in the world around me through a bunch of things, like just being a blessing to others with kai, like as just a direct thing, being able to create employment opportunities in our community.
Nice.
Which was massive. And then with the cafe, we've got a thing that's called a kai for a koha. Yeah. And so that kind of opened the opportunity for others to be a blessing, and we just host it. So whānau can come in and they can kind of pay. It's like a pay it forward thing. So come in, pay it forward. Initially, we set it up to be a milk and a bread or an eggs on toast. Yeah. And then over time, people just buy willy-nilly whatever they want off the menu. I was looking on there the other day and there's like an eggs benny and a iced mocha, that whānau have brought, and they've written that and put it up on the card. Yeah. And so that just shows the heart that people have and the desire that we all do have to support and tautoko one another. Yeah. But it's the how, and I think that we have opened up a space that kind of is the how. Someone might come into our space and be like, see the opportunity to be a blessing to someone else, and they take it. Yes, I can, do something for someone. So I feel like that's one of the things that we could do a bit more of in our communities, is not necessarily be the person or be the thing that does all of the helping, but create opportunities for people that want to. We did a thing, when the floods happened up north, man, that was hot. That was when I watched that, like lots of whānau across New Zealand, across Ōtautahi, we were like, there was I think that in Ōtautahi we had a response to that and being like, oh, we remember the earthquakes. Yeah. There was like this, what's the word for it? Like an empathy. Yeah, like, oh man, look at, and seeing the news and watching the devastation happen. And that was so uncomfortable for me that I just couldn't do nothing. Yeah. Then it's like, well, what do you do then? What could we do? And so then I just put my thinking cap on and I was like, oh, we could do a fundraiser, we could do a kai fundraiser. And then that kind of grew and grew and grew. And then I had this random idea one day. I was actually trying to clean out my linen cupboard, and there's wardrobe and there's the bag of clothes sitting in my boot coming for tiki tour around for 6 months.
Same girl.
And I'm like, oh, I could sell that, or oh, I could give that away. And then it just ends up this pile of stuff that I don't want, but I don't want to throw out, and then too lazy to actually do anything. Yeah. And so I had this bag of stuff and another bag of stuff, and then I had this thought, and I was like, wait, what if we get everyone's stuff and have like a garage sale? Yeah. Anyway, I put a pānui together, put it out there, and we ended up turning the cafe into a hoko shop.
Yay!
That was so cool. We had clothing racks, and we were bursting at the seams. And when I put the pānui out there, it just was, again, it affirmed that kōrero before around people want to help. We want to help one another. Yeah. We just sometimes don't know how, and we don't know how to do it safely. Yeah. And you know, the things that stop us from doing that are the how and the fear around, boundaries and, you know, the stuff. So that was a perfect example of all that. I just had this little idea, have a little cafe, and it was like, okay, I want to do this. Does anyone want a tautoko? Boom. Cafe was full to the roof, to the rafters of clothes and shoes and stuff, and people donated all this food, and there were a bunch of beautiful wahine, beautiful volunteers who came along to help on the day, and they just messaged, I want to help, you know, can I awhi, can I tautoko? And so we had wahine come in and we set it up, and then I think we raised just over $5,000, and we just in one day, $5,000 off of, and it was at no cost. Like I put in some kai, a whole lot of time. Like it took me like a week to get it together, but that was just, you know, it was the fruit of our hearts. The fruit, the resource, the money that we came up with was the result of all of our hearts, and we sent that pūtea up to Hine Mihi Marae. It was so beautiful. I think that those things, you know, they're often inspired by stuff happening, and then I'm like, react to it. And in doing that, it's kind of rallied the community and rallies people around, and there's a bit of, you know, publicity around it on socials and stuff, and people kind of see what you're doing, get in behind it. I guess what's kind of happened over the years is whenever we've sort of stepped outside of the box and done random sort of stuff, people jump into support, but they don't ever jump back out again. Yeah. And we've just got this massive support network of people who are invested in the kaupapa because they've been a part of the story. It's such an incredible journey, and like I wake up often just with this overwhelming sense of like just awe at where things are at, and how did I even get here, and how am I so blessed to be living this life and, you know, doing these things and connected to these beautiful people and these beautiful opportunities around me. And, you know, when I have these feelings of gratitude, and it washes over me, and I'm like, oh my gosh, I can't believe it. Because then in the back of my mind is that little girl who couldn't speak English and started primary school in Brighton, the 17-year-old mama going home with her baby, you know, the solo mama leaving toxic, destructive relationships, trying to raise my kids on my own. You know, when I say that I believe things work together for good, that's because my life is literally a testament to that being possible. I just recently purchased a whare.
Yes, girl! Congratulations!
Thanks!
How does that feel?
It's changed my life.
Yeah.
Absolutely. In and out. We've been in there for like 5 weeks, and I didn't have any idea how much it would change my life.
Yeah.
You know, we were talking earlier about hauora and having a home as being such an integral part of that foundation, that place to rest into. You know, I've been in Housing New Zealand on the benefit. That was where I started. And now I've just, you know, 5 weeks ago moved into a brand new home. And actually I'd done that with the help of the No Hakarau program.
Oh, yeah.
You know, I wasn't raised in Te Ao Māori. I established a connection to my taha Māori as an adult. Mm-hmm. I intentionally kind of pursued knowledge and knocked on doors and asked questions and gathered information enough to be able to know my pepeha, to gather information to kind of give myself a sense of identity. And in that, have been able to register. I was already registered as Ngāi Tahu, but being able to connect with my iwi, to connect with the things available, whairawa, the No Hakarau program, the things that are there to help Ngāi Tahu whānau build themselves up, build their lives, build their families. And, it was odd at first because you kind of feel like you're not entitled or not, well, that's how I felt.
Why?
Because I guess not having an understanding of who I was and my identity, I lacked the confidence to really ask for those things or accept those things. Yeah. As I gained knowledge, as I strengthened relationships, particularly with whānau here in Ōtautahi, with cousins and with aunties, and I got to know people and people got to know me, that confidence grew to a point where I might have where I saw an opportunity and I felt courageous enough to, confident enough to go, yeah, and then people ask, who I am, and I can tell them that I'm Ngāi Tahu, and I feel there's not a doubt or a discomfort in owning that. Yeah. And I do feel like that's something that a lot of whānau might struggle with. I've got, people that are really close to me who have reached out and they want to learn more about their taha Māori, and it would be uncomfortable for them to access some of the tautoko that's there. You know what I mean? Yeah. Yeah, so, I mean, the no hakarau journey has been absolutely incredible. I first engaged with this program 8 years ago, so it's taken me a really long time to get to this point. It was a good few years of working really hard and learning and applying those things to be able to get to the point where I moved into my whare 5 weeks ago on my own.
Yes, girl!
On my own, single income, a business owner, self-employed, single mother. Like that is like those titles don't fit in the same category because it's not something that seems to be achievable. Yeah. It's like, what? But with the help of my iwi, with the help of my whānau, and with the support network that that our Pākehā has grown, all these things have all worked together, and this is where we're at now.
Beautiful, Sachi. I love it.
Honestly, I'm so freaking happy for you. Honestly, it's been beautiful to hear about your journey and to see small snippets of that, as we've known each other over the years and stuff, and just to see where you're at now is so amazing. And it's inspiring for other wahine out there, other single mama out there, or other business owners out there who started, just like you did in Housing New Zealand House, but for us to be able to see that it's possible if you, put in the hard work, if you get the connections and you keep your faith, have faith that you're in the right places at the right time for a purpose, because everything has happened in your life, I feel like, for a purpose to get you where you are now.
I think one of the key things that I've used in my life, a statement that's kind of helped keep me going, was when we do the basics and do them well, when we look after our whare tapawhā, when we take seriously our own hauora and the hauora of our whānau, and I love your kōrero about that too. I love watching your content, the things that you create. You just have such a beautiful, light-hearted way of sharing some really, meaty topics. Te whare tapawhā being one of them. When we look after ourselves and we look after our whare, the fruit that grows from that has the potential to nourish our lives, to nourish our tamariki, our communities. And I think that some of these things are, resilience, yes, don't give up, stand on what you believe, push through, we can gather strength from one another and from the people that are around us, but ultimately it's our decision to stand and to stand in the face of the storm, do the basics, day after day, just do the basics and do them well, simplify it. Did I eat? Did I sleep? Are we, have I done what I can to take care of the basics? And then grow from there. Yes. Check our intentions, realign ourselves as regularly as necessary, find a space to, mauri tau. When we do these, when we simplify our lives and focus on doing these things, I think that it makes it much easier and more likely that we're going to succeed in the spaces that we are in. Yeah. I've got better at not, at kind of doing the things before it gets to the point where there's collateral damage, What I do to keep myself, to balance everything and keep myself well is I prioritise the basics. If I don't sleep well the night before, then I really prioritise having a good sleep, trying to get a good sleep, drinking enough water. I'm a member of HCC. Yeah. So I love the HCC community. Manu and Corey have just done such the most amazing mahi to build such a supportive,
best gym ever.
Yeah, it really is. And so that's where I look after my taha tinana. So I'll go and I'll train. I try to be realistic in what I can do, and my kind of thing is like if I can move my body at least 3 times a week in that space. I go to church. I feed myself spiritually by being connected to a faith community, and I will, prioritise karakia. I'll prioritise journaling. Not all the time, but it's when I feel my cup emptying, then I've got these things that I'm like, it's a straight, okay, what have I done and what can I do to prop myself back up? Often we're busy being busy, mahi, kids, and then when there's a bit of space where I've found myself, it's like, oh, what should I do? And it's an effort trying to think of something or, if we don't have lots of friends that we're closely connected to, or you got an effort to be connected to them, it's an effort, right? Yeah. It's a way I've found to manage my social life or my lack of, to prioritise and have a bit of a social life. I've got to have a list of things, but I think the other important thing is community and connection. And, we have te ātārangi classes that we just started up in the café, and I feel like that really nourishes me. Learning, because I'm hungry to learn. At the age that I'm at, I've had a lot of years to practice what works and what doesn't. So that's it.
I love that.
Every answer is so long-winded. I'm sorry. Straight up.
Very straightforward.
Nah, it's beautiful. It's perfect. That's what we want. We don't want no short answers, like yes, no answers. The more you elaborate, the better, girl.
Okay.
So, what legacy do you hope to leave for your children in terms of cultural identity and resilience?
Ooh, that's a good question.
Let's go.
I think that the legacy that I hope to leave is to be, kind of forging a way forward in our whānau. I'm one of many cousins. Forging a way forward and changing the cycle. Yeah. Changing the cycle of disconnection. And, through the decisions that I've made in my life, that's made it easier and possible for my moko, if I ever have them, my children, my moko, and for our extended whānau, that we remain a part of te ao Māori, that we contribute to and participate in and are blessed by te ao Māori, because too many of our whānau are on the periphery, but I do believe that it's this generation, because my story is not uncommon. Yeah. My story is not uncommon in that there are a lot of whānau that I've connected with who have done the same mahi. Like in our generation before us, a lot of our generation for us were disconnected. Yeah. And so I think that this is like a massive sort of growth in the...
What are your hopes and dreams for your business as well? Where do you see it going, like, in the future?
The food is not the thing that I'm passionate about. Mm-hmm. I'm good at it, but it's not the thing that I'm passionate about. It's the people.
Good.
I'm passionate about people. I'm passionate about hauora. So I have a vision of actually building a multi-purpose wharekai where we will continue to do what we do now, but that it'll be extended beyond that, and that it'll be a space, a collective space where whānau can come and be supported, not only just to come for a coffee, but also have access to lots of other supports. It's not necessarily an ambulance kind of support. It's not necessarily just for whānau who are at the extreme end of any spectrum that are really needing support, but it's for everyday life, hauora. It's for connection. It's for inspiring and encouraging and speaking life into one another so that we can be healthy, grow healthy, maintain health in our whānau and in our communities. And so this vision and my hope for the Pākehā is that it would continue to grow, but grow in the direction of becoming more of a community kaupapa.
Beautiful. Sachi, thank you so much for sharing your kōrero today, sharing your journey. It's been, honestly, such a privilege and like pleasure to have you in here. I just freaking love you.
Thank you for having me. Like I said, it's a real honour. It's a real honour. When you asked, I was like, oh my gosh, it's been such a privilege and really beautiful to share with you. And I really love you too. I love your kōrero. I love your wairua. I love the way you're so uplifting and encouraging and just a breath of fresh air and a spark of life always whenever I see you. You're such a blessing.
Thank you. Thank you, my friend. Beautiful sharing your story. Thank you. Okay. So, another episode of Tahu Talks with Po and Sachiko Shimamoto. You know what to do, whānau. Keep your negative comments to yourselves. Only positive comments. See you next time. Bye.